Welcome to Marketing Automation Made Simple, the podcast that helps you reclaim your time, slash costs, and streamline your systems without the tech headaches. I'm Jovana, and today we're talking about something that's got me smiling like it's 1987, and I've just loaded motocross game on my ZX Spectrum. We're diving into vibe coding, a new way to create, play, and build inside your business using natural language and AI. So no jargon, no code, just joy. So let's roll. Okay, picture this. It's the 80s. I'm a kid huddled over my Spectrum. Fingers are flying across clunky keys, trying to code my own version of motocross. I don't know if you guys played that game before, if you're from the 80s like myself. It was a joy to always program your game for days. You'd spend hours and days typing lines of BASIC, B-A-S-I-C, that's the programming language, from game booklets. Yes, you used to get these booklets that are thicker than your school bag. And one wrong semicolon you make or some syntax that goes wrong, crash. Everything can just crash. So you can start over. There's no option on the keyboard to save. Basically, no mercy. You're just coding something because at the end of that project, you've got a very monochrome looking game, motocross. At the time, I don't think it was in color. So later came the PC 286 with floppy disks. Remember those floppy disks? Oh, wow, we used to collect them. There was a pile of floppy disks next to our toys. Loading anything felt like launching a space shuttle sometimes. And let's not forget those long coffee-fueled nights debugging code that barely worked. I used to watch my dad do that, of course. I wasn't old enough to do all that. I think I was about 8 years old, and my dad used to work as a computer programmer for the Reserve Bank of Yugoslavia back then. But we kept going. Why? Because there was magic in building something from nothing. Fast forward a few decades, and now we carry more computing power in our pockets than we had in the whole lab. Smartphones have only been mainstream for what? I think between 10-15 years. And AI? It's only hit our day-to-day lives in the last 3 years. So it's not long, last 3 years. Now we talk about something called vibe coding. If you haven't heard the term, that's fine. It only went mainstream this year, and it's been coined by this AI genius called Andrej Karpathy in the early 2025. So we are in 2025, and so it's only been this year. It's programming basically, but not as we know it. No syntax, no code. You basically just talk to the AI like it's your marketing assistant. So you could ask it something like, build me a landing page with a blue background, a rocket image, lead forms that connect to my CRM. You don't even have to have proper English to do this. And then it's done. Want to tweak it? Maybe ask it to make the button pulse on hover and ask it to do an A/B versions of different buttons or different images. Done. You don't have to involve development team. You don't have to wait. There's no big budget blowouts. It's just you, your idea, and a playground. You know what it feels like? It feels like being a kid again. That's how I feel. Back in the 80s, coding was my escape, but it drained the fun and too much friction and not enough magic where you have to sit down. Yes, kids, you had all this time, plenty of time to... There was my sister, as you know, my twin sister, and I also have an older brother. One of us was reading the code, and the other one was punching it in the Spectrum keyboard. That was like a unique keyboard that you get. And then the other person was like watching the TV screen because you had to plug it into the TV. Now with AI, AI just flips everything. Vibe coding brings back the spark of actually coding. So the thrill of asking what if and watching it come to life in seconds, it's just pure joy. If I had this in the 80s, I wouldn't be working from home. I'd be coding moon bases from a hammock on Mars. And I'm sure the whole humanity would be on Mars by now. This isn't just about speed, so it's about joy. I really find as soon as vibe coding came, like Andrej Karpathy coined it, then all these other platforms, everything came together. I just felt like joy, felt like I fell in love with the tech world again. And for business owners, we all know as a business owner, we all need joy. We all need a bit of joy. It's always a grind, isn't it, in the business? So let's talk about how things used to work, and for many of you still do. So for example, you have an idea, you are excited, you're energized, but then comes the grind. Step 1, endless team meetings. Step 2, briefing the marketer, then the designer, then the developer. Step 3, waiting for mockups to approve them. Step 4, feedback loops, revisions, delays, cost creep. That one idea, it takes about maybe 3 to 6 months to launch. And by then, you're over it. Your market has moved on. You've spent $50,000 in agency fees and lost momentum. 70% of ideas stall right here. Not because they weren't good, but because the execution is just horrible. It's the process of executing the idea is just not fun. Now let's flip it. Same idea. This time you use the exact same briefing language, but with an AI tool like Replit or Lovable. And you can ask it, design a responsive landing page in Blue Rocket image and connect it to my CRM. In a few hours, you've got a clickable mockup. Send it to your list and ask your list, does this vibe with you? Vote now. That could be a subject line. You test, you learn, you tweak. Before you've spent a cent on development, you've got proof it works. And what used to take months now takes a weekend. And your team, they're energized. They're building momentum. They're not waiting for sign-offs and approvals. They're actually building and creating and having fun again in their own jobs. So this isn't me talking about what's happening in the future. This is actually happening now. So the platforms I mentioned, like Lovable and Replit, just to give you an idea, Lovable is the Swedish startup built entirely around vibe coding. They were like the first ones, I think in December 2024, when I saw them come out, I was like, I cannot believe my eyes. I can't believe what I'm like watching people do with this platform. And that was they launched in 2023, and I only learned about them in 2024. And in just 90 days since their launch, they hit 17 million in annual recurring revenue. By mid-2025, they've just raised $200 million in funding. They're now valued as 1.8 billion valuation, and they're being touted as Europe's newest unicorn. And Europe doesn't have many of these. We always hear about the Silicon Valley and US tech, and that's where Replit comes from. So Replit is like the OG cloud coding tool. They've gone full AI. In September 2025, they raised 250 million at a 3 billion valuation, tripling their value since 2023. I think they're even projected to go to 1 billion revenue this year. Why? Because business owners, like all of us, are just tired of friction, and we want tools that don't have any frictions. And even typing can be a friction for some people, and I think they're even talking about using voice. So you don't have to type, you can just talk to it, and you can say your idea, and this tool is going to create that landing page. So this is happening right now, and it's still early days. And look, some people might call vibe coding, I think I saw someone call it fast fashion for software. And it kind of is, because what we're dealing with these platforms, we're having, we're basically using templates, that it's templatized way of a design for every single project. You can take screenshots of different designs that you like, and it will try and reproduce that. But ultimately, if you are from the industry like myself, you're going to clearly see the distinction between what's vibe coded and what's a custom website and what's been properly designed by a designer. So I would kind of think about this as, I think mentioned in one of my earlier episodes when AI came about, is this idea of the sea of sameness. You know, we could eventually be coming into this world of sea of sameness when everything looks the same online. And that gives the opportunity for people who like to innovate and think differently to come up with something much more striking. And even the old school marketing could be cool again. So here's what you can do. You can start small. You can pick one project, one idea that's been sitting in your someday pile, open Replit, sign up to Lovable. They actually offer free plans as your trial. You know, you could build a whole website on a free plan. Use your words like you'd normally brief your team and just see what it gives you. Vibe coding isn't about replacing a team. It's about speeding up the start, getting clarity before you commit those big budgets. And I know a few software companies that we work with, their product teams love vibe coding because now they don't have to wait for visual to be developed by a coder. They can just do it themselves and then have conversations at executive levels and push the ideas and sell these ideas internally before this big commitment of budgets and time is invested. And vibe coding does save you time, it saves you money, and I think more than that, it can bring back the fun back in the business. I think it's joyful. I honestly think, I don't know when was the last time I had this much fun. You could sit down for a quick, lovable vibe coding and then you're having, you look at the watch and it's like, oh my God, it's been five hours and I've been talking to this AI tool. It's just joyful to use. And you basically just get to play again. And that's worth everything. In this day and age, I think we need a bit more joy. So thanks for hanging out with me on Marketing Automation Made Simple. If this episode sparked some vibes, hit subscribe, leave a review, or message me with the wildest marketing idea you'd love to test in vibe coding. Who knows? We might feature that idea in a future episode. I'd love to feature my listeners on my podcast. And coming up next episode that I'm going to publish, I've got a special guest. He's been on a few podcasts already. Greg Merrilees. He's the founder of Studio One Design. He's the author of Next Level Website Design, How to Stand Out in an AI Era. And I'm having very specific conversations around vibe coding and what do professional designers think about this and the future of websites. Because he basically redesigned over 2,000 websites. And he's going to share how they're using AI tools to build faster, smarter, and more customer-focused websites without the fluff. And until then, keep it simple, play like you mean it, and I'll chat with you soon.